She still can't even stand.
She's so wobbly.
Sean Wei Li is furious.
She's upset. 100%. 100%.
Oh, good to be back in your lives, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to a brand new edition of Axe Kick Picks, episode 89 on this lovely Friday afternoon, March 22nd, 2024. I am your host, D-Rock, all coming from you live from the Northeast, New Jersey, and my beautiful partner from South Carolina, the golf capital of the world, Joey D. Joe, how you doing, kid?
Hey, living good. And shout out to the opening theme because it is Thug Rose Fight Week, my boy. You know,
Yes.
A couple of events that we got going on this weekend, just so we know, BKFC 58, Bulgaria 2 takes place today at 4, and so does Karate Combat with their Kickback 2. And on Sunday, if you want to watch something, if you got nothing to do, Fury FC 88 will be on. So got a couple of events that you guys can stay tuned to.
Yeah, Joe, I'm so glad you brought that up. No better week, no better theme song to open up than Thug Rose knocking out Zhang Wei Li, UFC 268 back in 2021. I remember where the fuck I was. She knocked her into the shadow realm, and you know, she moved up. She moved up in weight. This is her second fight at flyweight. We'll see how she does against Amanda Ribas, but no better. Do you remember where you were when she knocked her out?
Yeah, I'm thinking I was down here, and I think I was just like absorbing all the fights. I think I was kind of by my lonesome, but honestly, I was locked in. You know, we're big fans of Thug Rose, so that was, and then her saying, "I'm the best, I'm the best." I remember
and you know, Pat Barry, amazing cornerman, her husband, and you know, just the whole walkout, her believing in herself, and then the knockout was just amazing. I will say March Madness, but Joe, first day and your bracket is done. Kentucky is out. What went on? What happened?
Base decision making. You know, Jersey boy. I had to go with Coach Cal. And no, they shouldn't have let go of him. He's going to get, that blue blood program on its feet again. You know, he's a good recruiter, and they'll still think he's good at coaching. But, Oakland has their number. It's not the first time they beat him and knocked him out of the tournament. So, that was a little based on my point. But, hey, I got to say Trevor Whitman, though. I think he's a better cornerman than Pat Barry. And I heard Trevor won't be there.
He won't be there. Second consecutive fight. Trevor Whitman will not be there. But Kentucky, tough loss. I don't think he'll leave. Great recruiter, and I just think he needs to go back to the old days where he was winning national championships, getting back to the Final Four, playing defense, grabbing rebounds, but we'll save that for a different podcast. But Joe, we got a great episode for you. We'll recap UFC Vegas 88 last week. We got Bellator Belfast going on within minutes, so we'll get to that real quick. First, UFC is back at the Apex. Like we said, Amanda Ribas is taking on Rose Namajunas. UFC Vegas 89, headlined by 2 flyweight women. And then at the end, Joe will take us away with Rizin going down in Japan. But Joe, let's talk about last week. Performance of the night and new haircut by Marcin Jabor. I like the haircut. He didn't want to go bald, so he shaved just half of his fucking hair. He's amazing for that. But he gets the submission win 4 minutes in. And, the first 2 minutes, I thought Ty looked good. He was banging with them, and Marcin Jabor had to do what he had to do. He had to get the fight to the ground, and then he got it's ruled a rear naked choke. I don't know if it was a real naked choke, but nonetheless, he gets a submission win, and he's in the top 10 in the heavyweights.
Yeah, Marcin Jabor has always been a threat, and I hate to say, I do think he's suffering maybe from a little alopecia, and maybe that's why he went with cutting his hair. But like you mentioned, the first 2 minutes was when Ty was most dangerous, and he was just trying to throw bombs, but none of them were really landing against Jabor. He's been known to have good defense. It's just about kind of splitting the guard and, landing those shots flush, where I don't think you look at his resume. I don't really think he's been finished a lot via KO, TKO. Maybe let's see if we got a loss in there. It's probably like Derek Lewis or something like that. Well, he does have more losses via knockout than he does via decision. But survived against Volkov back in the day. He strings together some wins. Honestly, he's a threat in that division, and he deserves to be at the top. Top of the heap. So can't knock him there. But Ty, we talked about it online. Maybe bare knuckle boxing is next for him because he won't have to worry about the ground game as much, and maybe he's a threat there. He said he's a banger from South Sydney, Wales. he's true to his word there, and he wanted there to bang. But when someone goes and grapples, man, it's like out of his element. So he just struggles in those positions, and he was fighting for as much as he can. He had a little air pocket to breathe, but Tybura, when he got your back and he has your neck, it's pretty much over, and that's what we saw. It was pretty much over before it began when he took him there.
Yeah, I don't know what's next for Ty. That's 4 in a row now he's lost. I don't think he deserves to be in the top 10, even though he dropped one spot to number 10. I just don't know what's next for him. He need like the striking alone, forget about it. A whole camp needs to be dedicated to grappling and to wrestling. Sprawling, learning how to defend off your back. Like this should be the main focal point of a training camp, especially against Tybura, who is going to wrestle you. Am I crazy, bro?
No, you're not, but it's just that, not growing up doing it definitely puts you at a detriment. It's going to be hard to teach these kind of instinctual things that you get from learning to grapple young. And the fact that he's just, like he came out and said, I'm a street fighter when Bruce Buffer announced him, that's once again, living up to his name. And that's what he's known to do. I don't think many people in the heavyweight division are going to want to stand and throw hands with Tai Tuivasa, maybe take after like a Chuck Liddell, like a sprawl and brawl type of, game plan. But it's just when the ineffectiveness of the sprawls and the inability to deny the takedown takes place, he does, tend to get out of his realm and he's in for a long night. But if anyone wants to stand with them, they're in for some trouble, except for like Tom Aspinall. He found a way to hurt him and get him down and ground and pound. But yeah, I think he does deserve to still stay in the top 10. But I mentioned that because we talked about it online, him maybe moving over to bare knuckle, just because I feel like he'd had success there. He could be like the Mike Perry of the heavyweight division, other than like Juggernaut Hunt. Obviously, he's a platinum, of course.
I just think that me and you, if we could identify and we know not to stand and bang with him, how do you think all the top contenders in the division are they're not gonna stand with him? Maybe Tom, maybe Ty, but he's not, and that's the thing. And I'll give you an example. Yes, he started late, but I think that's a cop-out. Look at a guy like MVP, who was a kickboxer his whole life. He didn't start wrestling or jiu-jitsu until he was 24 years old. So it can be done. It's I don't want to say it, but I got to be a harsh critic. It's laziness. He wants to stand and bang, and then he doesn't listen to his cornermen. And then what's going to happen?
He's got a hammer at home, man.
So I don't know. I think it's a little bit of laziness from Ty. I do think he's a really exciting fighter. I don't think he should ever be fighting at the Apex. His walkouts are great. He's a fan favorite.
Yeah, I still think it's awesome.
I still think he deserves to be ranked. Maybe not top 10, but like who can he fight next? Jairzinho Rozenstruik, Marcus Ruggiero de Lima, like he's on the rise. I just don't know like what's next for Ty. He's gonna have to fight. If he fights another grappler, it's gonna be over. It's gonna be 5 in a row. I'll call it right now.
Shamil, you said Rozenstruik. Maybe fight Shamil just for shits and gigs. But there's the fear that if he goes and tries to take it down, that he hasn't worked as much as Jairzinho has in that game. So to your point, another guy who hasn't grown up doing it, the fact is he's put the time and effort in his camps to work the get-ups and work when he does find his way to the mat and is on his back to be able to survive those precarious positions. Yeah, I agree. Ty definitely has to get back in there, get back to the drawing board and work those positions. Just, play bottom, just be in vulnerable positions, the ones where you're not dominant, and improve from there. I think a full camp would help him, like you said, 100%. If he could just go straight grappling for 3 months and see where that gets him, because he's going to probably take a fight within those 3 months. He's not going to want to stay away from the game that long. So 3 months might not be the most time to get better at that aspect, but it's definitely going to be needed for him to get back in there, especially when now fighters know the path of least resistance with him.
And maybe the torn meniscus was part of the problem. Don't want to really harp too much on that, but that could have been an issue. But now looking at Marcin Tybura, sitting at number 8, I would say the top 5 is all busy. I think he only has 2 possible fights moving forward. You either take the Jelton Almeida fight or the Alexander Volkov fight, because Curtis Blades, coming off that huge win, he probably wants Cyril Gane or Sergey Pavlicek. You got Tom Aspinall. He's either going to defend it against maybe Curtis Blades or Sergey Pavlovich. Stipe's going to fight John, and then so that's the top 5 right there.
I mean, he lost to Volkov. I mentioned You know, I
Yeah.
don't necessarily think I want to see that, but he hasn't seen a lot of guys in that heavyweight division, to be completely honest. So
Mm-hmm.
they could throw him against jail time. You know, he's improving. He wants to get up to the top 5. He might have to fight Pavlovich. You know, that could also
Yeah.
be a fight there that they could do. Did we know is Cyril Gane announced for a fight? Does he have an
No,
opponent?
Cyril Gane does not have a fight either. But you think that's a big jump?
It's a big jump. That's the only thing I was going to mention. I think it's a rather big jump to go to the top 5, but you know, Almeida maybe wants to get back on track. Tybura can probably match him in the ground game and maybe, you know, X him on the feet. I know that could be a matchup. I'd like the first mention of
I just think eventually, as much as I hate it, I think eventually Tommy's gonna have to defend his interim belt because of the holdup with John Jones and Stipe. They only want to fight each other. I don't think that fight's ever gonna happen between John and Tommy. I think Tommy's gonna have to fight Cyril Gane for that interim belt.
Yeah, that's interesting. Yeah, I mean, you know, I think as fans, people were saying that if Alex Pereira can get past Jamal Hill, maybe he fights.
Imagine.
Pereira and every.
Jesus.
So that would be pretty crazy. But
Yeah.
they could do a lot with the top 5 because you know you said most of them are busy, but I feel like there's a lot of flexibility.
Yeah, 100%. Let's go to the co-main though. No contest. But man, our boy Brian Battle was looking fucking sharp.
Yeah,
I don't give a fuck what he said, and I think Lusa kind of was a pussy, to be honest. I mean,
you concur.
You can't fight, and that's okay. If you really can't fight, I understand that you should not continue. But then after that, you want to fight and act tough and try to say you're gonna catch Brian Battle backstage and all this. I thought you couldn't fight. Like what's going on? So I don't know.
Bad blood.
He was looking for a way out. Like Brian Battle said, loved everything he said on the mic. He explained it perfectly. And
like
let's be honest,
he's like, I didn't know you recorded me.
Yeah, and to be honest, the way the fight was going, Brian Battle was piecing him up.
Yeah, it was gonna accumulate. Whether or not he was gonna win the judges' scorecards or he was gonna get a late finish. I think it was coming to an end for Angelus. I did take him, so that was a miss on my part. But man, I should have never faded Brian Battle. We saw him against Gabe Green in Charlotte, bro. That lit the crowd up. And without Brian Battle, I don't think that night would have been as roarous as it was. But Brian Battle looks good at 170. He has fought heavier weight classes, but now that he's in killer shape and the technique is falling behind it, he is a killer at that 170-pound welterweight division. He really is.
What a win for OSP, 40 years old, getting the job done. I mean, split decision win. I did think he did enough to win, even though I had money on Kennedy. Wow, what a bad loss for Kennedy and Joe. What a step back to he just did not put anything together. When a 40-year-old is coming out there and outclassing you, looking faster, looking more in shape, it says so much about the work that Kennedy put in for this camp and not taking it serious. And that's what happens when you don't take fighters serious. On any given day, you could lose. You got to give credit to OSP here.
Yeah, and it could be a little bit of Kennedy maybe not taking Ovens that serious, but I mean he's an OG of the game. You know, he's a veteran, and I think on the flip, Ovens looked at Kennedy like a threat and probably motivated him throughout his camp, and he came in as a 40-year-old having to prove something. Like I said, I don't know why I didn't take him straight up on the money line because there was a lot of value in him straight up. I just thought we'd get one of his signature St. Preux chokes. You know, you got to rename the Von Flue choke to St. Preux choke in honor of him. It's got more than Von Flue. So, and they know the strikes accumulated, more significant strikes, total strikes. You know, they stand in front of one another. There really wasn't that much of an attempt for a takedown on either part, but yeah. I thought he would retire. I mean, this is the type of fight you go out on top. You know, I guess he still wants to stay in the game. He still wants to make his money. So shout out Ovitz because it was a good performance. You didn't expect that from the 4-year-old, like you said.
No, did not expect that. I don't think a lot of people expected it. He cashed out at a plus 380 underdog. And Joe, I mean, I get it. You want to retire and, you know, maybe go out on top. But if I'm OSP and I'm sitting here like, oh, I was this big of an underdog and I fought this well, I still got some left in the tank. He probably has another fight or two left.
Yeah, in the words of Dustin the Diamond Poirier, only if I could bet, because they'd be betting on themselves, they'd be making bank.
Exactly. What a line. But, you know, and this is like a big step back for Kennedy. Like, where does he go from here?
Man, I don't. He's not even ranked.
Oh
So
no, he's not even ranked in the
not
top
even.
25. I don't think.
Yeah, I don't
In
think
the
he's
light
even in the
heavyweight.
top 25. Man, he's gonna have to take like a buffer fight, something that could.
Yeah.
But the UFC might be doing him any favors. They're probably gonna with the competition that's getting up there now.
Mhm.
At the top of the light heavyweight division, I mean, yeah, he might be not getting any favors in terms of what his next matchup may be, and they're all tough. We're seeing more and more of Kennedy and Jeknoe. So I think the first time you saw him, there wasn't, he had that like slam KO.
Mhm.
He had a couple weird like knockout finishes, a couple submission victories, but now you're seeing more and more of his game, and you know where his flaws are. And I think more and more game planning, and more footage watching, you'll have an answer for him, and that's unfortunate because he's still young and he can definitely improve a lot, but I just don't know how far you can come. If you're that developed in your game, he
Yeah.
may be kind of behind the curve, if you may.
Yeah, I agree. We'll see where Kennedy goes here, but big win for the 40-year-old OSP. Wow, what a interesting fight in the featherweight bout between Isaac Dolgarian and C-Rod. Joe, now I scored it. Bias aside, I did score it a draw, if anything, because I got round 1 10-8. Then I thought Isaac won round 2 10-9, and then C-Rod won round 3 10-8. So if anything, it's a draw. Did not see a split decision for C-Rod. I'm sorry.
Yeah, and if they did like specific numbers like Verdict does, they would still have edged it over to Bulgarian by a quarter of a point. But yeah, I think it could have been at worst a draw, a split draw at that. It was a split decision, so they were seeing opposite ends of that. But yeah, I saw it the same way. Globally, we see it the same way. Most fans saw it the same way, and I think even the commentators were kind of questionable about that as well. Of course, they got to play not taking any biases or anything, but yeah, Isaac Bulgarian, he looked good, man. Like you said, those first 2 rounds, he slowed down in the third.
Yeah,
I think that's Christian Rodriguez's game, though. He kind of, wants to wear you out, throw a tornado at you, and just like kind of get you out of there late, or win on the judges' scorecards. But Isaac Bulgarian, he has a bright future ahead of him because he is that explosive. I think this is one of the few fights in his career, if not the only fight, to get out of the first round, let alone get to the judges. So, yeah, I think the future's bright for the Dana White Contender Series alum. I do.
Yeah, and C-Rod takes another guy's that's 2 straight undefeated guys that C-Rod take. He's a dog, man. I'll tell you. I agree. The cardio did go for him, and if you let a guy like C-Rod back into a fight, he could steal a fight like he did on Saturday night. So big ups for the kid in Milwaukee. Anthony Pettis. They got a guy up there. I'll tell you that.
Himself next time around, though, for sure. And
Yeah.
like you said, the fact that he won this one, he's gonna have a tough matchup coming next time.
Yeah. GM3 round 2 submission plus 440. Cash me the fuck out, Joe. What a performance by GM3.
Yeah, that was awesome to watch, man. And we called it. I said that taking him straight up was worth the play, and then we called the second round submission. So thank you for that. Perfect prediction on the Verdict app. And it was good to see the little string of submissions that we had in that main card and beyond. So I like seeing the submissions to grapplers shine. And Gerald Mearshart is exactly that. Barberina, we broke it down. He does get taken down a lot in pretty much all his fights he has. And that's where he's susceptible. He wants to make it a war of attrition on the feet and kind of just, hurt you. And if he can't, you take him down and you can find a way to sub Brian Bam Bam Barberina. So that's what he did, GM3.
Good win for GM3. Your boy submission Mike Davis gets the win in round 2. Yeah, a lot of submissions here. Even Rafael Filho, he got a performance of the night. He got the round 1 submission as well. Overall, not the most intriguing card, but we come out a little profitable, 3-2, and we get the no contest. So 3-2-1 for me last week. Joe, How did you do?
Nice, brother. You made up for it. I went 1-3-1. I don't know why I'm kicking myself for not taking Ovin straight up. I would have wound up 500. But hey, 1-0 on the parlay. We did hit last week's parlay. Let me give a reminder what it was. It was the don't call it a comeback parlay. It was the PM3 and Mike Davis Beast Boy picks, both on the money line, both hit. So that was awesome.
Let's go. Joe, thank you for that. Let's get into the picks for today. We got a twofer. Like I said, Bellator Belfast is going on within minutes right now over there in Ireland. So we'll start with there, and then we'll go to UFC since we have a few hours to get.
Yeah.
So, Joe, for everyone listening live, take it away. Bellator Belfast.
Yeah, stay posted on your sports books because it is going on currently, but we're only touching the main card, so you might be able to get these bets in before time has come. And we'll start it off in the bantamweight division for Bellator Belfast with, the Pride, the Irish Pride, James Gallagher as a dog in this situation at plus 110 against Leandro Higo at minus 130. And I'm going with Higo in this spot as the favorite. I think he's a little more sound overall. When it gets to the ground, I think the advantage is going to be with Higo, but I do think he can match James Gallagher on the feet. So I think it's smart by taking him, even though, he is in his home backyard, James Gallagher is, and he has proven a couple people wrong sometime, but he does run me the wrong way. I think he's not really truly himself, or unless that is, but it's just like he's seen what Conor McGregor's done. He's seen what, talking trash can kind of get you, but there you go. If you have a hater, it means you're doing something right. You know what I mean? Some people are watching you, maybe they're watching you to lose, but I'm going to fade him in this spot. I'm going to go with Leandro Higo. Some of the matchups that they've had with the opponents in the past have matched up, and Leandro Higo has outdone him. So give me the more, astute grappler and the guy who's a veteran in the game. I'll go with Leandro Higo, but that 35-year-old age does worry me. Does definitely worry me a little.
Yeah, we're going to be on the different sides. Give me the dog, James Gallagher. He will be the better wrestler, but if he isn't careful, he can get knocked out by Hugo. It is a tough fight. The odds indicate that it's kind of around a pick 'em with close odds. Hugo is the short favorite, but I'll take a stab at plus money with Gallagher, plus 105 I got. If he doesn't get submitted, he could probably control Hugo for the entire fight. It's going to be a boring fight, but I do think he gets the decision win. I do think it goes all 3 rounds. Give me the dog, James Gallagher, plus 105.
Yeah, sweet. See, opposite sides there. We move to the lightweight division with Tim Wilde as a minus 110 against Manuel Souza at minus 105. I'm going with the Brazilians back-to-back spots. Once again, if this hits the mat, I do think Souza's going to have the advantage here, but if it stays standing, Tim Wilde does throw some hands, and he could connect with one of those shots, but I think that's kind of going to be at a default because if he, can't land those punches, I think he's going to be in for a long night. So give me Manuel Souza, Manu Mito at minus 105 in that second spot.
Yeah, money has come in on Manuel because Tim, he did open up the short favorite, but now he's the dog. He's the short dog. But Joe, I don't agree with the live movement. Give me Tim Waddle here, straight up on the money line, minus 102. I think this step up will expose some holes in the defense for Manuel. And I think Tim, he's going to be able to land some of those leg kicks and counter those punches that, Manuel really hasn't seen before. And Tim, he also has great cardio. So really, the longer the fight goes, the more Manuel will fade. And, Tim will show off that finishing power in the 3rd round. He finished his last fight in the 3rd round. So he has knockout potential. Give me the small dog here. Give me Tim Waddle on the money line, minus 102.
Yeah, staying posted on those books definitely does you a benefit, Yep. you get him early sometimes, and then sometimes the money goes away. But then if you wait right before the time, you're going to hit some good profit. So let's go into the featured bout of the evening in the middleweight division. We got Leon's brother, Fabian Edwards, minus 120 in this spot, taking on Aaron Jeffrey at plus 100. And simply put, I'm taking the slight dog in this spot. Aaron Jeffrey is as legit as they come. I didn't like how Fabian Edwards looked against Johnny Eblen his last time out. Maybe that's a little bit to Johnny Eblen, though. Maybe seeing Johnny Eblen's latest performance against Impa Kasaganai may also put that to question. So we got to see when they get into the cage. But I do like Aaron Jeffrey. If you look at his losses throughout his career, he's only lost to the who's who of the middleweight division throughout the world. So I like Aaron Jeffrey, the Canadian. I think he's a really good fighter, and I like him in this spot. If he beats Fabian Edwards, he very well might be next in line to fight Johnny Eblen for the belt. So give me Aaron Jeffrey at plus 100.
Ooh, I love it, Joe. We're actually on the same side. If you want to watch, if you want to watch a fun striking match, don't watch Aaron Jeffrey's last fight against Rosa. Give Jeffrey credit. He did win the wrestling battle. He did land more strikes inside the clinch, but man, that was a bad. I was watching it yesterday. That was a tough fight to watch. But Jeffrey's fight before that, Salter, was fairly similar. Salter did get the win, but before that, Jeffrey had 2 KO wins. So he does have knockout power on the feet. I do think Edwards is faster. I think he is a better striker, but the strength of schedule for Edwards is not impressive at all for me. In 2022, he beat Lyoto Machota past his prime, Charlie Ward, who's now lost 3 in a row. And then in 2023, he beat Musasi, who's almost 40 years old at this point. And he has 60 pro fights, so he has wear and tear. And then when he actually stepped up in competition, he got finished by Johnny Eblen. So I agree with you. Give me Aaron Jeffer on the money line. I think Fabian Edwards is overrated. He has high ranking due to beating old and washed up fighters, in my opinion. So I'm going the dog here. I got plus 142. I see on some books he's plus 124 right now. So shop around. But yeah, I'm going dog hunting again.
Yeah, shout out the Gegard Mousasi name drop. Show me the money, bitches.
Exactly.
Co-main event slot here. And we've been waiting to see him because I think we were supposed to see him for the PFL, champs versus, and in the featherweight division, Patricio Pitbull has shined at plus 100 in this spot against Jeremy Kennedy at minus 105. I got to take Pitbull. I think he's going to present more problems. He's definitely got the power advantage. Jeremy Kennedy is going to want to take it to the mat. I know I took my grapplers to begin this card, but I'm going to be fading him in this spot because Patricio Pitbull could also match him in the grappling exchanges. So I'm taking the slight dog, Patricio Pitbull at plus 100. I think he can knock him out. So maybe a sprinkle there, but I don't have a play. I'm just going to take him on the money line.
Right now, Patricio Pitbull is the favorite. Minus 115, minus 120 in some books. So you could get plus money.
Money's come on him.
Yeah, so money has come in on him. Joe, this one was the toughest fight to pick.
Yeah.
It is a brutal fight to pick a winner because for me, you have no idea what you're going to get from Pitbull. This is a guy who looked absolutely awful against Sergio Pettis, I think last summer in June. Then he got KO'd and risen a month later, and then we find out he had a hurt neck. If he's back to being old Pitbull, his pressure, striking should be good. I think it should be enough to take out Kennedy. I agree. But Pitbull, he's 36 now. He has over 40 professional fights. A lot of wear and tear, just like I mentioned with Gegard Mousasi. So Kennedy, he is coming off a nice win against Carvello, where, he used a lot of his takedowns, ground game to win pretty convincingly in my thought, but he didn't look great on the feet. And if Pitbull comes back like old Pitbull, I think he could dominate on the feet. I don't think I could bet this fight, just because all the unknowns, like I mentioned with Patricio Pitbull, but I think I'm going to take the fight to go to the distance. I do think it goes all 5 rounds or 3 rounds. Pitbull's last 4 Bellator. Is it?
I don't know. It's for the belt.
Okay, so then 5. It's 5. Yeah, so 5. So regardless, Pitbull's last 4 Bellator fights have all gone to decision. And if Kennedy gets Pitbull down, he could just hold him there for all rounds. So it might be a boring fight. I can see Patricio Pitbull winning. I could even see Jeremy Kennedy winning, especially if Pitbull's not the old Pitbull that we're used to. Gonna stay away from it. I'm gonna go fight to go to decision at minus 106.
Yeah, you're taking the 2 home guys, the home dogs, and 2 Canadians, and I got all the Brazilians. So I don't know if they're necessarily based or what, but I think we have good feeling out this, and I like that we're kind of on opposite ends. Besides, of course, our Aaron Jeffrey bets, but in the main event of Bellator Belfast, we take place in the light heavyweight division. Corey Overtime Anderson, remember 25-8?
Oh yeah.
Against Carl Moore, the Irishman, at plus 310. Corey Anderson was a minus 390, about a $4 favorite in this one. And I do think there are levels, so I got to go with Corey Anderson in this spot. I don't think it's worth the play to take him straight up. I don't think you're getting much value out of that. I think he can get Carl Moore out of there. Carl Moore has shown some susceptibility on the feet. So if Anderson can play his game, and, he may want to wrestle a little bit because he's really been known to do that. And he could maybe finish with a ground and pound, but he has knockout ability as well. So I like Corey Anderson to get the TKO in this spot at plus 110. And if we, like you said, if we do get kind of some maybe decision fights in the main card, hopefully he makes up for it in the main event.
Yeah, it's extremely chalky, but I agree. I do like Corey Anderson here to finally capture the belt. We could get a better price on Anderson to win via decision at plus 220. That's what I'm on. Okay. I'm not that impressed by Carl Moore. He's won 4 fights in a row in Bellator, but not against the best guys. His last fight against Polizia was pretty uneventful. It was a slow wrestling clinch match, and to be honest, I'm not even sure he won that fight. And, even if, he even seemed surprised when they announced his name. And Corey Anderson on the other side, he isn't the most exciting fighter either, but he is tested vet whose only loss in Bellator is a decision loss to Vadim Netkov, who's an absolute killer who we saw a few weeks ago. So the only thing of this fight is 5-round factor. I don't think Carl Moore is ready to beat Anderson in 3 rounds. So 5 rounds, much worse. Anderson is the pick, most likely by decision, plus 220.
I like that. We're on the same side, just different ends on how he gets it done. And yeah, Carl Moore, you said Alex Polizzi when he lost it. I mean, he beat him, but by decision.
He beat him, but
barely.
I don't know if he won.
Like you said, we saw what happened with Alex Polizzi against a 45-year-old Yoel Romero. So I do think that maybe math not ever perfect, but it certainly adds up there. And they'll do it for Bellator Belfast.
Joey, good luck. I can't wait. I'm right after we get off, I'm going to turn it on. That and March Madness, baby. Can't wait. Before we get to UFC Vegas 89, a quick word from our sponsor. We are brought to you each and every episode by Viva Tequila Seltzer. The most refreshing hard seltzer on the market, hands down. It is no wonder why Viva was voted #1 hard seltzer in the world by San Francisco World Spirit Competition. With only 88 calories, 0 carbs, 0 sugar, and a light 4.5 ABV, Viva is the perfect drink for your post-game celebration, as it was created with that active lifestyle in mind. We flavor tequila seltzer because flavor is the spice of life, and we like our drinks with just a kick, just like how we like our lives. Whether it's Huckleberry playing a round of golf with the boys or an elderberry on a Friday afternoon watching Bellator, it doesn't matter. Our favorites pair perfectly with the Artisanal Blanco tequila for that subtle and refreshing drink. Our belief here at Axe Kick Picks and at Viva is to live long, live well, and live it up. All right, kid, we're back at the Apex. A little later start time, prelim start, 7 o'clock here on the East Coast. Main card starts off at 10 p.m. Joe, anything on the prelims for you?
Yeah, I'm actually pretty much getting involved as soon as the fights start.
Okay, take it away, kid.
And real quick, we need some Viva down here in SC. I went over to Total Wine. I couldn't find it. I was looking up and down the aisle. So shout out to our sponsor. We'll give him a call and try to get him down to SC. And let's go right into UFC Vegas 89. That was prior last week. Just talk about Vegas 88 for AKP 88. And now we're Vegas 89 for AKP 89. You can't headline it up any better than this.
Gotta love it.
Gotta love it. Let's go into heavyweight division. We got Muhammad Usman as a dog in this spot at plus 121. I saw him taking on Mick Parkin at minus 142. I do think the line's rather fair because I think the potential that Mick Parkin has. But as you spoke about the strength of schedule, I don't like who he's necessarily fought. I do think that his level of competition has been kind of subtle. And Muhammad Usman, I mean, he does kind of live up to his nickname, Motor, in these spots. I think if he could put the pedal to the metal, put the pressure on Mick Parkin, I think he could edge out a victory in this one, whether it's on the judges' scorecards or maybe gets a surprise finish and gets us going on the board early. So I got a dog barking early for us. And Kamaru Usman's brother, Muhammad Usman, give me the Motor at plus 120 to start off UFC Vegas 89.
Love it.
All right. And then, at first I was looking at this next fight. It was like a last minute type of fight in the flyweight division. Igor Severino at plus 150 is taking on Andre Lima at minus 180. I was thinking, maybe this fight would end inside the distance. I think the line is right. I think Andre Lima has proven himself in the UFC a little more, but Igor Severino has not lost a fight, and he's just as game as they come. So with that said, the youth and the durability does give me pause for concern about the fight ending inside the distance. It could go to the judges. So I was all over the place with this fight, and so I decided to stay away from it. So I have no official play for the second fight. And then the same could be said for the next fight for the women's bantamweight division. We have Montserrat Rendon at a plus 180 taking on Daria Zelazenakova at minus 218. And I like the opponents that she's fought before. And I think the play would be to take the over because Montserrat has only won her fights as professional fights via decision. She has some finishes in her amateur bouts, but none in professional. All have gone to decision. Daria definitely all pretty much going into decision. A couple like armbar finishes, if I remember correctly. But the play would have been to go to the distance, to go to decision. But there's just no value, and it's minus 300, trending up to a minus 400, so there's no value in that play. So I, once again, have stayed away from this. There's no official play in the third fight. And I'll go right into the next fight of the evening, where we see the featherweights take place. And, man, Dana White Contender Series, Steven Nugent at minus 185 is taking on Jarno Aarons. The Dutch plus 164. And I like my man, the Ninja Steven Nugent in this spot. I think he's a monster. I do actually. I like everything that I've seen from him in the Dana White Contender Series. He finishes opponents. He gets the job done. I think it's playable at minus 185. So give me Steven Nugent, the Ninja, straight up on the money line. I think he could probably finish this fight, but to play a prop this early, I'm gonna shy away from that. I'm just gonna take him at a little chalky but yet playable money line. Let's do it there. And I had to take my feelings out of the next one here because you know how much I like Miles Johns. I like Chapo a lot. In the bantamweight division, he's a minus 148 against Cody Gibson at plus 124. Pretty sure he was on Tough. Cody Gibson was. So he's also very game. These guys do have some finishing ability, but if you look at the percentages, most of the fights do wind up going into decision. And so I'm going to play that. I'm going to go back to basics and just based off what you see in their previous fights, I'm going to go ahead and have a starter for a 3-leg parlay. The overs parlay will start with over 2.5 rounds at minus 200 between Miles Johns and Cody Gibson, because I think they're going to go tick for tack. And I'm thinking we may have a split decision either way. So I wanted to get the feelings out of it because I was a little biased with Miles Johns because how much I do like him as a fighter. But playing it a little safe, and though straight up it's chalky $2 favorite, I think if we incorporate it on the parlay, which I'll get to at the end of it, you'll get some value out of it. So let's go right into the next fight. And another last minute replacement, because in the featherweight division, we have Ricardo Ramos at minus 160 taking on Juicy J, Julian Erosa at plus 130. And so this is going to be my first prop of the day. Julian Erosa, he's on and off. He's inconsistent. Sometimes he looks like a world beater, and sometimes he gets knocked out in the first round. And I hate to say, after 2 first-round knockout losses, it's quite possible it happens again. It gets a very explosive Ricardo Ramos. And I wouldn't necessarily just go with the first round knockout, but there's also a possibility that Ricardo Ramos has a first round submission because he has a lot of both of those scattered throughout his resume. So give me Cartagena, round 1 win, plus 275. I think he gets it done in 1. And move right along. We go right into the lightweight division. Trey Ogden. I've been hearing a lot of good things about this guy, so that's maybe why the books are saying he's a favorite at minus 155 against my guy, tough winner, Kurt Hollabaugh at plus 130. This dude's a dog, absolute grinded out guy. Just throws tons of volume at you. He could take it to the mat, want to submit you when he got dominant position or hurt you with ground and pound. I like everything about Kurt Hollabaugh, but like I said, I have heard a lot of inkling about Trey Ogden's ability, and you've seen it in a couple of his last outings. So I'm going to go with an official lean here, so nothing on the books, but I do like Hollabaugh in this spot as a dog. So if you're willing enough to go ahead and take him in that spot on the money line, or maybe want to play a prop with him, by all means, he's just an official lean for me to start it with my leans.
I do like Trey Ogden. I will say not just he's a great fighter, he's also a coach. He does coach fighter fighting Cody Gibson, Miles Jones, and the same camp. So he's in the corner a lot. Even his fighters do a lot of cornering. So just the fight IQ, he does a lot of regional stuff as well. So I understand why he is the favorite,
Yeah, it makes sense. And Kurt Hollabaugh, though, you can't deny his IQ. He's been in the game for a long time now.
Inconsistent.
Yeah, that could be said for that, but maybe he's found a renaissance in his career. That's the thing. So
I hope.
That's why I'm leaning with him on the official lean, but I'm not, putting it on the books. I think it's also kind of a heart if I were to bet it, I do like Kurt Hollabaugh as a person as well. So let's go right into the main card here. First fight I'm seeing is in the featherweight division. We got Luis Pajuelo at plus 136. Our Peruvians taking place against Mexican's finest, Fernando Padilla at minus 162. And you said because I normally go ahead and take another heart bait with my Peruvians, but I'm not picking a side in this one. I'm just going to have my second incorporation of the parlay with an over 1.5 rounds at minus 210 because both guys are game. You do see a lot of finishes from both guys. They can finish in the first round. They can finish in the second. But what I saw was that these guys have only lost their fights by decision. So I think that rears its ugly head in this one. I don't think it's going to be an unexciting one. I think we're going to have an actual entertaining fight to start out UFC Vegas 89. So even though I have the over 1.5, it would maybe trend to a judge's decision, but there could be a finish in this late second or possible third round. Let's hope it's late enough that the over hits and that we feel safe about it and we move on into the next leg of the parlay. Do you have anything in there?
No, nothing in this fight.
All right. And that's where it is. My next leg of my parlay, I'm going to get it out real quick, and then I'll give it to you, my boy.
Yep.
The featherweight division, yet again, Billy Quarantillo at minus 148 is taking on a last-minute replacement in Yusuf Zalal at plus 124. Very game dude. Does throw a lot of strikes out there, but this is my third and final leg of the overs parlay. I'm going over 2.5 rounds at minus 280. That's what the books are seeing. I've seen it, though there's some finishing ability between the two of them. I think Yusuf Zalal stepping in last minute is actually going to benefit him because Billy's not going to have as much of a game plan devised for him. And Yusuf Zalal, he does have a lot of victories by decision. So I'm agreeing with the books. I'm agreeing with what we're seeing in terms of their resume. And I'm going with the over 2.5 at minus 280. But to incorporate all those overs, it will give you the 3-leg overs parlay at plus 201.
You could get over 2.5 rounds at 260 right now. I do see 280s out there, but Best Fight Odds has it at 260. Okay. So do shop around. But yeah, our boy Billy Q is back in action. Like you said, going up against Yusuf Zalal, short notice. Yusuf, he came into the UFC as a hot prospect, but he's kind of cooled down here recently. I got to go with our boy Billy Q here as a short favorite, minus 112. Zalal, he's a tough guy. He did fight the champ Ilia Topuria to a decision, but here on short notice, I don't think he possesses the power to knock people out. Billy Q is a cardio machine. He gets better as the fight goes on. I think he gets the win. I could see a late round submission, maybe round 2, 3 at a nice plus price, but official play, Billy Q money line minus 112.
I love that play. Yeah, that's our boy. So that's why I kind of had to take a lot of my heart out of this card because there are some fighters that I truly like. And it's sometimes not best to bet with your heart. Sometimes you got to use your brain. So.
Trust me, I know.
Yeah, let's go right into the bantamweight division in the next fight. And I mean, we might very well have a rising star in Peyton Talbot in this spot. And in the book, see him as a favorite at minus 148, where I saw him against Cameron Simon at plus 124. D-Rock, go ahead. Yeah. Tell me what you got in this spot.
Yeah, very fun fight here. Joe, we were talking on the phone earlier in the week, and I was leaning with the plus money and Cameron Simon for most of the week, but I decided to, pull a fast one, pull a curveball, and give me Peyton Talbot straight up on the money line, minus 144. I know he's a contender series guy, but he looks so good in his last fight. Cameron Simon, he's tough as the nails, but I just think Peyton is more physically stronger. He's better on the feet, and if he takes his back, I think he could finish him. Should be a fun fight, but I do think Peyton Talbot is the real deal. Minus 144 is a great price. Give me Peyton Talbot.
Yeah, he's like a honey badger, and what honey badger wants, honey badger gets. If he gets your back, bro, he's probably going to find the neck, and he's going to get that choke sunk in. So I did not want to put an official play for this because I do feel like Simon could be live because it's a step up in competition for Peyton Talbot. It really much is. And though we saw him fall short, Simon, in his last outing, he might want to get back, and he may have been motivated throughout his camp. So I think it's a tricky spot, but I do like the Dana White Contender Series kid, Peyton Talbot. The future could be bright for him. So he is my official lean on the night as well. So I got 2 official leans for y'all, and he's the other one. Got to go there. And in the featured bout of UFC Vegas 89, we take place in the middleweight division. We got Edmund Shabazian, the Golden Boy, makes a return at minus 192. Against another last-minute replacement. I'm glad for these fighters stepping up last minute, not scared of that means they're constantly training, that they're on weight, they're able to make the weight cut and they're able to fight the next day. So shout out AJ Dobson for doing so, because on the books he's a dog at plus 160, and he's my second dog of the night. Early I went and took Motor, I took Mo Usman. I'm going with AJ Dobson this one. Edmund Shabazian, if he can't play his game, which is standing on the feet, throwing his kicks and staying at length, in close in the pocket, I think he's susceptible to getting tagged. And AJ Dobson, though he's long, does look good. It looks better to me in the pocket. And if he finds his way to the ground, I think it's night and day. I don't think Edmund's going to have that much of a game plan when he gets to the ground as compared to AJ Dobson, who finds submissions, who finds ground and pound spots, and he can get the job done there. So in a last-minute replacement, I'm going to go with a plus 160 dog and AJ Dobson. I think he can get it done.
Yeah, Joe, this is a very interesting fight here. Edmund Shabazian is 1-4 in his last 5 fights. I haven't given up on him, though. I do see the potential in his ability, but he needs to start winning. I feel like the odd makers agree with me. They're making him over a $2 favorite. we know Edmund Shabazian's kryptonite is wrestlers with good cardio. Don't get me wrong, I do like Edmund Shabazian, but for me, it's dog or pass here on this fight. So I agree. I got AJ Dobson at plus 170.
Nice.
I'm gonna take him straight up. I think he wrestles and tires Shabazian out, and he grinds out a win. Give me the short notice, AJ Dobson.
Yeah, like it. I like we're on the same side there. And yeah, it does. Edmund seems like he likes to be the hammer, not the nail. Doesn't find his way out of precarious positions when he's not the one dominating. And I've seen AJ Dobson come out of some tough spots, whether he was getting hurt on the feet or he was on the bottom. Someone was basically trying to, hit him hard, throw submissions up. And AJ Dobson found his way out of those spots. And that says a lot about his character. He's training hard in the gym. And yeah, he's ready to fight. Obviously, I think everyone have we had weigh-ins? I think everyone made weight. No,
yeah, everyone made weight. Yep,
that's good. That's a good sign. So shout out once again to all the fighters stepping on short notice, and shout out to a brother that stepped up in the heavyweight division in this co-main event slot. Carl Williams minus 180 taking on Justin Tafa at plus 150. We saw Junior step out because he took the place of Justin in the prior matchup, but I think it's going to be knockout or bust for Justin Tafa, and I just don't like that when I see it on the books. I like Carl Williams. We saw him as well in Charlotte. He was out there in the crowd taking pictures with them. So he's turning out to be a fan favorite, and if he puts on a good performance, Carl Williams could find a way to get the job done on the ground, or if he matches on the stand and doesn't get caught, I mean, he could finish it in the first round, but as it gets later in the fight, it definitely favors Carl Williams and the ability to get it to the judges' scorecards and win on a unanimous decision. So though it's 180, a slight chalk, I'm going to take him straight up on the money line because he could knock him out, maybe ground and pound. He could maybe catch him with a submission if it winds up on the ground, on the mat, and it could be a unanimous lopsided decision if it gets to the judges. So give me Carl Williams straight up on the money line at minus 180.
Yeah, for Carl Williams, different Tafa, same game plan. I will say Justin is a little thicker and, could take damage a little more than his brother, but Carl Williams, he's not much of a finisher, but he knows exactly what he needs to do to get the win. Great fight IQ. And like you said, you hit the nail on the head. With Tafa, it's either knockout or bust. Tafa also hasn't really fought anyone recently. Austin Lane, he had that no contest with him. Then he went down, fought him again. Parker Porter. Carl Williams, in my opinion, is just more athletic.
Respect Parker Porter.
You can. Carl Williams, in my opinion, we saw him in Charlotte. He's more athletic. I think he's going to be a better wrestler. He has better cardio than any of the fighters that Justin Tafa has fought. We saw him in Charlotte, and I like the kid, man. I think he goes out there, he wrestles Tafa to a win. It's high, I agree, but minus 185, I do think it's a good play. Give me Carl Williams here.
Yep, U.S. Virgin Islands, my boy, right there in the co-main event slot on the same side. And we've made it to UFC Vegas 89's headliner in the flyweight women's division. Amanda Hebos, first main event for her at plus 200, taking on Rose Namajunas at minus 245, the biggest favorite on the card. D-Rock, tell me what you got in this main event.
Yeah, like you mentioned on the top of the show, I made a note. I'm glad you brought it up early. Yeah, Trevor Whitman not going to be in Rose Namajunas' corner this weekend. It's going to be the second consecutive fight that Whitman hasn't cornered the former champ. Real quick, before I give you my thing, does that worry you anything at all?
Yes, it absolutely does, because he's a very good game planner. He's a master of what he sees. I hope he's not I don't think it's Trevor Whitman not focusing on Rose and focusing on the BMF fight with Justin Gaethje and all, or anything like that. It's just, I think maybe Rose's decision with Pat.
Yeah.
And I just, I don't like Pat Barry in the corner. I think he's a little delusional when it gets there because he has the relationship he does with Rose Namajunas. Like when they were fighting Carla Esparza, he was saying, "You're doing great." You hear them booing, it means you're winning. That doesn't mean that at all. You have to be open as a coach and sometimes not give the fighter what they want, but give them what they need. And that's what I feel like he lacks at times. But Trevor Whitman, he's going to do the exact opposite. He's going to give the fighter what they need and not what they want. And that's why he's a good coach, and if not one of the best in the game. So the fact that Trevor Whitman's on the sideline in this one and Pat Barry's the head coach for her, it does worry me.
That's fair. And I agree. I hate to bring up MVP again, but, MVP, his dad coached him for his whole life. And then when he got to 23, 24, and he wanted to pursue MMA in the UFC or Bellator as a career, his dad said, listen, I can't teach you anymore. I could give you my bits and bots, but if you want to dedicate your life to this, you need someone that's not as not into you, but like so close to you.
The emotional connection between
Yeah,
the two.
and like you said, Pat Barry is the husband, so he's has that connection with Rose, and I get why Rose wants him there. But like you said, Trevor Whitman is a better coach. He's well respected in the MMA space. So I agree. I think it is a little concerning, but I still love Rose here. This is going to be her second fight at flyweight for her. I did think she was a little undersized in her last fight against Manel Fiore. I don't think that will be the case, though, in this fight. I do think this is the right fight for her. I think she's going to put on a show for us tomorrow. I really do. She's happy at fighting at the Apex. It takes the crowd away from it. It's more intense and intimate for her. And I think that's what she needs. This is the only place I see Ribas being better is her judo. But, because Rose is so physical, I don't think that's going to be a problem in this fight for her. Rose is the better wrestler.
Yep.
And if she's serious about becoming champ again, she needs to win this fight. I'm all over the place with this fight. I got a few plays. I'm taking Rose straight up on the money line, -200. I like the under 4.5 rounds at -142. I think she gets it done before the last bell. And, Ribas has been knocked out before, and we've all seen and heard, obviously, our intro with Rose knocking out other women. So I think she could get the knockout. In my last play, I think Rose gets the finish. So Rose inside the distance at +120. Rose is so confident in all her interviews this week. If you really listen to her, I think she's very focused. I think if she wins this fight, she's right in title contention at flyweight. And stylistically, I think this is the right fight for her. I thought this is the fight she needed to come to flyweight for, not the Manel Fiore. I think she was biting off a little too much than she could handle.
But she looked good towards the end. She definitely
did. She did, but she looked a little undersized. She needs to win this fight. I'm on Rose huge here, kid. Straight up via inside the distance, and give me the under 4.5 rounds.
I love it. That's our girl. Huge Thug Rose fan. To the day I die, honestly. She's such a good person. Her character is second to none. You could forget about all the controversy between her and Pat. At the end of the day, Rose Namajunas is a champion in heart,
future Hall of Famer
and a fighter, exactly. And you're right. I don't think this is a case of her being too undersized against Amanda Ribas. This is a case of two fighters that don't want to cut the weight in this part of their career. Yep. And Amanda Ribas is being her first main event. Rose has not been featured. Like, this is the first time we're not seeing Rose on a pay-per-view. I'm pretty sure since like 2014, Rose has been on every pay-per-view every time she's fought. So the lights aren't going to be too bright for Rose. They certainly could be for Amanda Ribas, even at the Apex. And I'm on the opposite side in terms of how it gets done, but I do think Rose does get it done. I'm going with Thug Rose via decision here at +250 because I think she'll outclass her on the feet. Like you said, the judo aspect of Amanda Ribas, that's the position that we saw Rose get caught in against Jessica Andrade, get slammed on her head and lost her title that way, but it made up for it. I mean, every time she does find a loss in her career, she makes up for it. Rose Namajunas is she's training hard no matter what. Even if Trevor Whitman is not in her corner, she's been with Trevor Whitman training behind the scenes, training at elevation. So she's going to be well-conditioned. She's going to be ready. She's the better grappler, as you mentioned, not only just the better wrestler, but the better grappler overall. If she finds a way to get that back, watch out for the submission because she's capable of taking the arm and taking the neck. And obviously, we know her skill when it comes to standing on the feet. She can throw that leg up quicker than pretty much anybody. Front leg, rear leg, you name it. And she's really good technically when it comes to moving her head and throwing those strikes. So Rose Namajunas is definitely the play. The books got it right. The fans got it right. Verdicts got it right. We're all favoring Rose in this spot. I think Amanda Ribas winning in this spot would be a shocker. Not to take anything away from her and her capabilities, but I don't think many people have her besides herself. Obviously, she should. She should think that she could win this fight. Of course, you should as a fighter. But a +$2 dog, a lot of value there if you're, ballsy enough to do it. I don't see it. I'm all over Rose. It is Thug Rose fight week. We'd be asinine to not take our opening theme here.
Exactly. Thug Rose. And, the only thing scaring me a little is it seems like everyone on MMA Twitter or MMA Reddit is all over Rose. That's the only thing that scares me a little bit. She has ballooned up to over a $2 favorite, rightfully so. I just think stylistically, this is the right matchup for her. And if she wins, she's right there. She's a fight or two away from becoming champ in that flyweight division. So, and honestly, if we look at that flyweight division, I know Shevchenko isn't the champion. You know, we're going to get that trilogy soon, but Rose might be the biggest fight in that division. Off really name power, you know, like I'm looking at the rankings. Obviously, we're rooting for our hometown girl, Erin Blanchfield. If she wins next week, she's next in line. There's no doubting that. But after her, we're Macy Barber fans, Jessica Andrade, Caitlin, I almost said Chikagi, but Natalia Silva, Manera, thank you. So like they're not a lot of interesting or potential star powers than Thug Rose. So if Rose Namajunas goes out there and wins, especially if she goes out there and submits or knocks her out, she's right there.
Yeah. The Natalia Silva fight looks enticing to me, but I think Natalia Silva is really good, and I don't think you give Rose her. So if she beats Key-Boss, she takes her spot. Rose does. You know, even though I think that she should be higher on that list, in my opinion, Rose should, even if she just beat Amanda Key-Boss. To be honest with you, it could be possible that she gets the Fierro fight back, takes the loser of the Blanchfield Manny Fierro fight, you know, and then she gets her way into the top 10, and then winning off of that fight, if it's Fierro or Blanchfield, I know it would hurt them getting 2 losses in a row. Yeah. But if Rose winds up beating one of them, I mean, you could also ask her for a title shot and have Rose swoop right in for it. So, and like you said, the star power, the name power, it's there for Rose. She can absolutely be the biggest fight for anyone in that division.
I agree. We're not Natalia Silva fans, but I don't think the UFC does that on 2 ways. One, they don't want to kill off a young hot prospect, and also they don't want to kill, and they also don't want to kill off Thug Rose. Yeah, God forbid Natalia Silva goes out there and dominates her. Yeah, like that's a possibility. They're not even going to touch.
She might be the fastest one in that division, and a possible threat depending on how much they want to, push her to be a champion. Yeah.
100%. I think she's 1 or 2 fights away. She could fight Jessica Andrade next. She beats Jessica Andrade. I mean, that's a future Hall of Famer. That's one of the best women fighters I've ever seen in my life.
She's probably a female BMF.
Exactly. So there's that flyweight division, that top 10.
It's fun, bro.
Oh my God. We got our girl Tracy Cortez at 10. So she's looking at a fight possibly at the Sphere, Mexican Independence Day. So there's a lot of women fighting, and I'm glad they're getting back-to-back weeks, women headlining UFC cards. I like it, Joe.
Love it. And you know, though we made a decision here based off analyticals and a little bit of based, you know, next week might be a little bit of the same.
Yes. Yes. That coming next week. But Joe, thank you so much. Good luck this weekend. Should be a great fight night. Like I said, prelims start at 7 p.m. here on the East Coast. Main card kicks off at 10. Let's get out some news. Our boy, Elvis's cousin, Waldo Cortez Acosta, he will take on Robles de Spain, UFC St. Louis, May 11th. Joe, big step-up competition for Robles.
Yeah, but you know why I said that that GIF I sent is like, this is not a banger. And I know better because that fight's going to end in 30 seconds. I think Robles de Spain is legit, bro. I think Waldo Cortez doesn't incorporate other aspects of the game well. He's going to want to stand and bang. And de Spain is the last person you want to be standing and banging with. And I think he catches him in 30 seconds. I really based off that last fight, it really spoke volumes to me. It seems that anytime he connects with you, even moving backwards, no one's generating that amount of power these days like him. Bro, that fight's going to end, like I said, over under 30 seconds. I think I'm going with the under. I think
I'm so glad you brought up the seconds because that was my next question. Over under. I was going to say 20 seconds, but you put it 10 more to 30. So I'm going to take a shot on the over just because Waldo Cortez, he has some durability. It's the leg kicks. He cannot check a leg kick to save his life. That is my problem with him. But the guy was throwing 97 in the bullpen.
Fastball at the head.
So, like, I don't know. I think it's going to be a banger. I do think Robles will win and will knock him out. I just don't know if it's going to be in the first round, but it's going to be a banger of a fight.
Under 30 seconds.
Yeah, I love it. By the way, we saw the UFC 300 poster. That can't be real, can it?
They updated it. Did you see?
Oh no, I didn't.
Yeah,
Hold up.
it's got Poatan and Hill at the top,
Hold up.
and
I
it's
gotta
got
see
Zhang
it.
Wei Li and Zhang Zhaonan at the corner, and then it's got the BMF title, Justin Gaethje and Max Holloway, and the other corner.
Okay, I
I
see
don't know
it
if
now.
it looks legit. It looks like the UFC made that one, and it's not like fan made or
Uh,
anything.
I'm waiting.
I have
I'm
yet to see
waiting.
it confirmed exactly. So
Yeah,
I mean that
I'm
looks
waiting.
better. Obviously, anything will look better than what they first put up. So
Oh my god, it looked like a crayon. Like people just fucking wrote UFC 300. Like if you look back at UFC 200, it was sick with Brock Lesnar. Like that's what they need to do. I know.
overlooking the octagon.
Yeah, and I know they don't really do that anymore, but like even the
They
one that
should.
we're looking, they should. I agree with
Posters are an integral part of the sport. People
Yeah.
have posters in their rooms. I mean, for
Yeah.
God's sakes, I have my name on the canvas here in my
Yeah.
room. So come on now.
Yeah, I did want to I wanted to bring that up because I thought that was so fucking funny. But well, we'll see. I want to wait till the official UFC posts that. But yeah. Little PFL news. Co-owner Don Davis went on Ariel Helwani show, the MMA Hour. He announced some details regarding PFL pay-per-view coming up later this year. That's going to take place in Riyadh, Saudi Arabia. He mentioned 3 fights on the card: Francis Ngannou versus Renan Fior, Chris Cyborg and Larissa Pachenko, and Cedric Dubé versus TBA.
Is that true though? Real quick to interject with the Chris Cyborg and Larissa Pacheco, because she's coming out and saying that her next fight's Leah McCourt, and that's what she's sticking with.
Well, we will say this, and it's been documented. Chris Cyborg, who tweets, is not the real Chris Cyborg.
Her manager, I know.
It's her husband.
Like Ali tweets for Islam and so forth.
So I take that with a grain of salt. I'm going to go based on what Don Davis says, if I'm being honest. I'm not going to go what off he says. Yeah, which is fair. I think that is the fight to make. I like Leah McCourt, and I do think she deserves that fight. Yeah. But Larissa Pachenko and Chris Cyborg is the better fight. Let's be honest. So he also told Ariel Helwani that Cedric Dubé will be added to the Bellator Champion Series event in Paris, May 17th. He did not reveal whether it would be a rematch with Baki or somebody else. Would you rather see they run it back or him kind of, move past that?
I'm torn. I am. Yeah. Because I don't know if he can get that back. I think Baki's a really good fighter. And you don't want to kill that star, that star power that Doumbé has. And you want to put on a good event for the French fans over there in Paris. So he's going to sell out the arena himself alone. And if you get him a good opponent, but not Baki again, he may has a chance to win. But I really think that Baki's a really competent opponent, and he could find a way to submit him. Though Doumbé had looked like he's made strides on the ground, like we talked about in the earlier part of this episode. If you could commit your camp to the grappling aspect, if you know one thing, or the striking, if you know grappling, it pays dividends in the end. So, but Baki, man, he could stand with him, and if he could find a way to take him down, take his back, that's going to spell trouble for Doumbé. So maybe it's smart to protect the star and have him fight someone else, maybe someone who wants to stand up with him, which is not advised for anybody.
Cedric Dubé, he went on the MMA Hour about a week or two after the Baki fight, and he kind of was just thrown off about the whole thing. He kind of wanted to move past it, which I understand. And I think Baki is dangerous. I do think it was 1-1 going into that third round. And he did mention a guy like Jason Jackson. I just think that's a huge step up, kid. Like, after what I saw in round 1, I think Jason Jackson is going to starch him. Like, if I'm being honest.
Dude, Jason Jackson, he does, as we say it all the time, he does live up to his nickname, the Ask Machine. I mean, he literally is that, and he's a great wrestler too. Yeah. The strides he's made in his stand-up, bro, he's an excellent fighter. Jason Jackson is legit.
So he called him out. Jason Jackson called Cedric out. So it looks like there's mutual interest. I just don't know if that's the direction.
That's a cross thing as well, because it'd be Bellator against PFL, and I don't think that event would want to.
And I know it's so confusing. So everyone watching, obviously, they're continuing Bellator. We have a Bellator event right now, but they're all under the same umbrella, which is the PFL. So I know it's a little confusing sometimes.
Us is them, as Don Davis said.
Us is exactly.
All right.
Some unfortunate news, though, going back to the UFC. Walt Harris, the big ticket, 4-year suspension following a failed drug test back in 2023. He's eligible to return in July 2027. I mean, we haven't seen him in 2 years.
That
It's going to
hurts.
be 6 years since we see him. Have we seen
It's
the
done.
last of big ticket?
Yeah, I hate to say it, man. I'm in Walt Harris's corner regardless of the circumstance. The passing of his daughter and the reason why he fights. Walt Harris is the cream of the crop, a class act, and it's a shame that this happened. And have you heard anything from him? Like, has he come out and rebuked this? Like, did
No,
he say that
he's
he did
accepting
not?
this.
He's
Accepting
saying
it.
that he did do it.
Yeah.
I mean, unfortunately, he may have been juiced to the gills, but it just stinks, man. I really think it's over. He's going to be 44 by the time he gets back as well. He's already 40, right?
Yeah, he's
Yeah.
40.
Is he barred from like competing outside of the UFC?
I don't
Can he
know.
grapple? Could he throw a kickboxing match? Could he do anything like that? Go to one and fight Muay Thai? I mean, God, let this guy make money,
Yeah, and we're big Walt Harris guys. Everything that went down and why he fights, what happened in Alabama with his daughter, just an awful fucking story. So it's unfortunate, but I agree. I think specifically for the UFC, I think we've seen the last of Walt Harris, unfortunately.
Shout out Big Ticket, though, honestly.
Yeah,
we're fans.
yeah.
We're fans.
Ryan Spam, I'm a big fan of. He will take on Bogdan Guskov, UFC Vegas 91, April 27th. Butchered the last name, but you like this fight for Ryan Spam?
They're really trying to push that dude, Guskov. Yeah. What's his name again?
Gordon Guskov, or yeah.
Oh man, Bogdan
Yeah.
Guskov. Yeah, and they're really trying to push him because, I mean, look at the opponents that he's fought. Volkan Ozdemir seemed the big step up in competition. Now he's fighting Ryan Spann. I don't know if I see it. He did come out victorious in his last fight, right? I think he lost via submission and then he won via knockout. So it seems like his fights are kind of exciting, and so maybe that's why the fights are not going to go to the judges. They're going to end inside the distance, whether he's getting finished or he's finishing someone. So that's a tough fight. Ryan Spann is no joke. He also can match him standing, and if he finds a way to get it to the ground, he does like his submission. So big step up competition for that guy, and let's see. I just think that's what it is. I think the UFC likes that he puts on exciting fights. That's why they're pushing him.
Last fight that was announced, Alex Perez will take on Tagar Ulanbekov. No number, but it's a UFC fight night at the Apex June 15th. We don't have a number yet. Hopefully it's 100. But this is a guy, Ulanbekov, no one really wants to fight him. Here comes Alex Perez.
Yeah, Alex Perez's game, but it's like, your two matches you return from, you got to fight Bukayev and then you got to fight Ulanbekov. I mean, it's just, imagine you're making a UFC debut, you don't know who your opponent is, and it's Tamir Ulanbekov. I mean, you're just in for it. So I think it's definitely.
Yeah, I was just going to say, I think that the UFC is kind of throwing him through the ringer because of all the times he's missed weight.
Yeah. And I think he might have kind of a long contract. So even if he does lose this one, it'd be 2 losses back to back. I feel like because of all the canceled fights, he hasn't fulfilled his fights. And so they might have like 3 more fights lined up for him. And he's going to be fed to the wolves, unfortunately.
And last but certainly not least, a settlement, the antitrust law or settlement, for the UFC. They settled on $335 million. They agreed, both parties, the UFC and the fighters. The company anticipates that the settlement will be tax deductible as well. Joe, right off the top, massive win for the UFC. Awful for the fighters. Awful that the fact that the fighters don't even know how much money they're going to get. They're hitting up Ariel Helwani and reporters, which, not to shame them, but these fighters need to know. They need to know how much money they're going to receive. It all depends on the contract and how big of a fighter you are compared to a top 15 or a top 25 fighter. So it all depends. Each fighter is different. I just don't know, Joe. They were so close to a finish line. They were going to go to court in April and next month, and they were projecting billions of dollars, and then they settle on $335 million. I mean, a spokesperson, Lee and Johnson, I think the lawyers for the fighters, quote, "We are pleased to have reached an agreement to settle all claims asserted in both Lee and Johnson class action lawsuits, bringing litigation to a close and benefiting all parties. The final terms of the settlement will be submitted to the court of approval. How can you say that? How can you say we are happy with this judgment? We are happy with this getting 335 million. I just don't understand, Joe.
Yeah, it doesn't seem all too fair at all. The UFC won this, and I think, if it did get to the judge, I do think that unfortunately the UFC would have won. And I know you might have an opposing view on that, but I just think that they're all powerful. I think they do have a monopoly over the situation. That's what they were debating in this one. And I mean, shout out the names, because you got Kung Lee, Nathan Corey, John Fitch, Javier Vasquez, Kyle Kingsbury, even Brandon Vera, Javier Vasquez. I mean, these are some names, bro, some OGs of the sport, and they wouldn't be out here risking their name if there wasn't some setting behind it. So, that's the unfortunate aspect, is that it seems that the fighters are right in this, but yet
they are.
Money's going to talk and the rest is going to walk. So it's a difficult pill to swallow. And on top of that, the TKO stock is now up even more. It's up 10%. So it's like they just keep winning after winning, the UFC does. And we want to see the promotion do well, but when it comes at the expense of the fighters who are actually putting on the fights,
I'm glad you brought up TKO, because I think that's one of the pillars that a lot of people aren't talking about, in the sense that I don't think the shareholders wanted this to go to court. I think they wanted to settle. They wanted to get the money out, because, they just rang the bell, 2-3 weeks ago, maybe a month ago, they became live.
That's right.
So they didn't want this to go to court. They wanted to settle. And, it's just very unfortunate. The UFC is the clear winner here.
Yes.
It's just...
Listen to the names that they barred from speaking as well. I mean, their testimony might have very well put a nail in the coffin for the UFC, because these guys know how to speak. They're basically lawyers in themselves. Mike Chandler, Chael Sonnen, Uncle Chael, and Mike Bisping. I mean, if you get the, and then I think maybe Mike have a little conflict of interest, being that he does commentate for the organization, and Mike Chandler's fighting for them. So maybe they probably got taken aside, behind the scenes. We don't know if that's worked. That's, what is that? When you do something in court of law, that's tampering. They're tampering. The UFC is, if they're pulling them aside behind the scenes and telling them to do something when they shouldn't be. But those guys, if they were to give their testimony out, the way that they speak might have weighed heavy in the favor of.
I personally, and this is me, Dylan Rockford, speaking, I believe TKO misled investors in their statements, and, the merging documents, the language about insurance covering liabilities magically disappeared once the merger was completed. This invites new lawsuits. And, why is TKO up 6.4%? According to what the lawyers were saying and the fighters, they were seeking anywhere from $800 million to $1.6 billion in this antitrust suit and damages. And then they settled on 300, and the UFC theoretically could have been on the hook for over $5 billion. They settled for 335 million. You divide that up between, I think there's 1,200 fighters active in the UFC. Doing the math real quick, that's only $279,000 per fighter. I mean, that's nothing.
That's nothing.
So
yeah, I did it for The Rock.
Changed. Nothing changed.
I did it for The Rock. No, it's The Rock, bro. He's up to no good. Like it's kind of it's even similar to him and Oprah when they had created the Hawaii Fund, where they say that all the money is going to get funneled through the investors.
It all disappeared,
and it all disappeared, and it's gonna never. Hawaii didn't see a dime of that. So it's like, I don't know, man. It's corruption at its core. That's what it seems like.
It's corruption. Nothing's going to change in contracts moving forward. I feel for the fighters, and it's just very unfortunate, because they were so close to the finish line. But
though they agreed to this, it doesn't mean that they can't go to court again. I feel like if the fighters maybe try to unionize, which is going to be a tall task, if they decide to stand up for themselves and maybe boycott fighting, which is probably what they're going to have to do if they really want to get their way.
Yeah,
I would back them. Obviously, I think we all should try to back
them too.
We should all back them 100% and get them what they deserve, because it's going to come to a head. If you have absolute power corrupts absolutely, and if we get to that point, they're going to have to do something. And I would rather favor the fighters than favor an entity. I favor the person than I favor the corporation.
Yeah, as much as we are advocates and we love and support the UFC, we do not support this. So Let's end on a more positive note, Joe. We got Risen, 10 seconds left. Risen Landmark 9 in Kobe, Japan. We'll see it Saturday morning, but goes down live Sunday morning in Japan. What do you got, kid?
Well, I think it's technically 12 a.m. tonight, which would be 12 a.m. tomorrow night, if that makes sense. You know what I mean? Because it says 12 a.m. Saturday means it's tonight. But hey, I'm already taking too much time off. 10 seconds left. Naoki Inoue, -175 against Shoko Sato at +130. Give me Masamitsu at a dog spot here. Veteran, historic resume. He finds a way to knock every opponent out for the most part, and he doesn't really get caught in submissions. That's where Naoki Inoue is going to want to find it. He's going to find a way to. He's going to want to find a way to submit you, but he's going to be successful. And I'm going with Shoko Sato +130 dog spot for Risen Landmark 9. Give me Masamitsu. Get the excited, get the crowd going. I love these events, and we talked about it. I'm going to be watching the New Year's Eve dual screen. Every event that's on New Year's Eve, can't wait to the end of the year. I'm going to be watching all of them.
Let's fucking go, kid. A lot of dogs in Bellator and UFC and even here in 10 seconds left, Joe, but I appreciate it. Thank you so much. Good luck this weekend. That is going to do it for this Friday edition of Axe Kick Picks. On behalf of our sponsor, Viva Tequila, Joey, myself, we'll see you guys next week with plenty of picks, plenty of hot takes. UFC Atlantic City, baby. Make sure you guys follow along our social media, X and Instagram at Axe Kick Picks. You guys can find all of our episodes wherever you listen to podcasts, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Stitcher. We go live every Friday afternoon on YouTube, youtube.com/Axe Kick Picks live. Hit that like button, subscribe, rate, give us a review. Everyone watching now, comment below who you guys are like this weekend. All that good stuff really helps the show grow tremendously. So be a friend, tell a friend. Everyone, good luck on your wagers this weekend. Be safe, be well, and we will see you guys down the road. Peace.